We could not be more excited about Omnipod 5. It will be the world's first tubeless automated insulin delivery system.
I can't imagine what happened to your phone that afternoon. Hello and welcome. It's Camille, Neurobetic, your diabetes tech guy. The chair is out, and you know what that means. It's CEO interview time. But things have changed. I moved. But everything is the same. I took my chair and I took my Omnipod wall. And today is all about Omnipod. Because I am thrilled to be sharing my video interview with the CEO of Insulet, home of Omnipod, Shacey Petrovic. We talked about highly anticipated Omnipod 5. And Shacey is the first female CEO that I get to interview. So we talked about diversity and female leadership within diabetes and more. If you want more videos about diabetes tech, including CEO interviews, make sure you are subscribed. I hope you enjoy. This is my video interview with CEO of Insulet, home of Omnipod, Shacey Petrovic. Shacey, it is so incredible to have you here today. Thank you so much for doing this. Now, before we start with my actual interview, I do want to address the Omnipod wall in the room. So, Shacey, you might have Omnipod 5 in the works. I have Omnipod 550 here with me. So what are your thoughts? Have you seen this? What are your thoughts on my Omnipod wall?
I think it is fabulous, Camille. Do you know how many days or months of pods that is?
Well, it is a little bit of a community project, really, because I asked people on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube to send their pods in.
Fantastic.
So actually, these are pods from all over the world. They have some Dash pods, some of the original pods, from all the different countries. So people just shipped them to my house, which is quite a logistical challenge, but it's been amazing. And then we painted them, put some LED lights inside.
Amazing.
And, it's a house party item that everyone loves.
Well, I love it. And you are clearly a multi-talented man. So terrific.
Oh, I cannot take this credit. It's my dad that has been in charge of this. I only painted some of the pods. He is the man behind this. So massive shout out to him. So Shacey, as you know, I've been an Omnipod user for 2 years. And this is our first time talking. So I want to start at the very, very beginning. Today, the idea of having an insulin pump, which eliminates the tube and puts the pump in a pod that you attach to your body, seems kind of logical. But I want to go back to the very beginning. Where did the idea came from?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Camille. I often say, if we had started with Omnipod, we might never have had tubed insulin pumps. But in fact, Insulet was founded more than 20 years ago, now in 2000. And I think our founding story is just a wonderful story because it really illustrates the spirit of Insulet. We were founded by a local entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and father. And his young son had been recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so he was faced with either, trying to inject his son multiple times a day with a pen or a needle and insulin, or saddle his very active 4-year-old with a bulky tubed insulin pump. And he thought there must be a better way. And so he had envisioned a disposable, wearable, tubeless insulin pump that would be controlled by a separate handheld device. He got a bunch of very capable, smart engineers in a room, and that design was patented, and that became the first Omnipod system. So, I always remind ourselves that we were born from the needs of the person and the family living with diabetes, that we were born of innovation and of a thirst for finding a better, simpler way. And I think that spirit of innovation and our mission to improve the lives of people with diabetes just still really deeply ingrained in our team and our company and our culture today.
If we go on a short kind of journey of the pod since that kind of original idea, the pod that I'm wearing today, because I am a podder, the pod that I'm wearing today, can you talk me through kind of the changes that happened since the original? Do you mind telling when that original pod came about? That was 2000.
So 2005 was the first publicly available pod. It was the first clearance and launch of the market in the United States. And I think the pod remains today really differentiated, really customer preferred, because it's just so remarkable. It's wearable, waterproof, discreet. I think it's also really elegant and novel. There's a lot of technology, very sophisticated, strongly patented technology into that small footprint that you're wearing. So we haven't messed with a lot of it. We have focused primarily over the years on size and on quality and reliability. And so the pod that you're wearing today is about 20% smaller than future generations. And that's both in footprint and in profile. And then, we've also seen just tremendous progress on quality and reliability of the technology. And today is the best, we've seen in the last decade. Where in the system where we have delivered more visible transformation is really with that handheld controller. So today's generation Omnipod Dash looks much more like a smartphone than like a piece of medical equipment. And that's because Omnipod Dash really takes the foundation of that first generation Omnipod system, and it embedded Bluetooth technology into the pod, which then enabled the pod to communicate with other devices, including this new modernized touchscreen PDM. So, really remarkable transformation there. I think the touchscreen device really interfaces very similar to, a smartphone and provides a really great user experience. And, we're not resting there. Our research and development team continues to push boundaries for what's possible. And we have been building capabilities really in device miniaturization, therapy optimization, artificial intelligence, and integration with consumer technologies. And our whole goal, everything that we do on the innovation front, is really geared towards creating simple products that just deliver great outcomes and reduce burden for people with diabetes. And obviously the people that care for them. We're really focused on simplicity and burden reduction.
No, yeah, on the simplicity as a user, coming from a tube pump, it's truly amazing just how simple it is to apply insulin in the pod and just put it on, and you never have to worry about so many of the complexities and of a traditional pump system. And it's been great. So carrying on with Omnipod today, like you mentioned earlier, it was founded to help a child. John created it with some of the amazing people that he's met on his journey. Now, if I understand correctly, you also have a personal connection with type 1, because isn't your father a type 1? Is that right?
Yep. My father has lived with type 1 diabetes for 40 years. So I know you're coming up on your 10-year anniversary, and he's been living with diabetes for about 44 years now. Wow. And he is also a podder.
I was going to ask that, actually.
He was actually pretty poorly controlled on multiple daily injections for most of my life. And it's why, I like to remind everybody that diabetes is a family disease, because when you live with somebody in your family who has diabetes, you're constantly worried about every time they get into a car, if they're poorly controlled, and trying to get better outcomes so that they live long, healthy, happy lives. And my father was pretty poorly controlled on injections. He did eventually adopt pump therapy, and then most recently pod therapy about 6 or 7 years ago now. So it's been life-changing for him, in many, many big ways and many small ways. It's helped him to get better outcomes, better control, but also little ways. He was always sleeping on one side because his pump was on the other. And so being able to rotate got rid of his shoulder pain, little things like that, where you realize that somebody is living their life around their technology, as opposed to letting their technology live their lives without thinking so much about diabetes and navigating the disease. So he's been really thrilled with the technology too, which is great because I am his personal tech support.
It must be the dynamic must be very interesting, because we mostly hear of parents of type 1s, but actually that's kind of how Insulet started.
Yep, right.
But now it's kind of the opposite way around, of you not caring, but having a relationship with your parent who is a type 1. That's amazing. So if his pod fails, you are the tech support.
I am the person he calls. Yeah, that's the nature of the job, being his daughter and the CEO of the company.
No, that's amazing. And so he's using Dash, I would assume.
Yep, he's using Dash, and he also uses a Dexcom G6, and just in terrific control. Both technologies have been really wonderful for him and really helped him to achieve outcomes that he just wasn't before with more traditional therapies.
Yeah. So we will get back to that, and what those two worlds combining will mean going forward. But before we do that, there was a topic that I wanted to raise with you. And it's a topic that's probably not often discussed within diabetes or diabetes tech, and that's female leadership. I don't have any statistics to throw here, but the fact of the matter is you are the first female CEO that I get to talk to, because it's not a very diverse industry, I would argue, the diabetes space. So this is just your personal opinion from your kind of helicopter point of view. If you had to look at industry, so CGM, pump companies, non-profits, payers, National Health Service, all of those stakeholders within the diabetes space. Have you seen change in the industry? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true that today it is still somewhat of a rare occurrence, but I do continue to see progress. And I even see it in our boardroom. At Insulet, almost half of our board of directors are female.
Wow.
Recently, a great CEO of the American Diabetes Association, also female. So I see it in, diabetes, I see it in med tech, and I see it in the boardroom growing in impact. And, I think diversity, gender diversity, but all forms of diversity is really important to us here at Insulet. And it's not just because of performance. And we know diversity drives better performance, that's actually proven. But we also think about it because we serve, a very large and very diverse group of patients or people living with diabetes. And in fact, early last year, we celebrated a great milestone for our company. We now have more than 250,000 people across the globe that use Omnipod. So you can imagine they come from all sorts of backgrounds, right? All genders, all orientations, all socioeconomic backgrounds, all ethnicities. And we really want to foster a team and an environment that is just as diverse as the customers that we serve, so that we can really better understand unmet needs and better address those unmet needs. And so we do a bunch of things to foster more diverse, more equitable workforce at Insulet. And we believe that will help us better serve our customers and our market. Because as the diabetes impacts everybody of all different ages and all different backgrounds, and we want to be best positioned to serve them. So yeah, I think, diversity is really important. I see it changing. It has not been as fast as I think many of us would like to see, but I do see signs of it across the board in executive ranks, in the boardroom, really changing. So.
No, that's great to hear. I think there is, I often see diversity in many companies hitting a certain level and then not really being moved to kind of that executive senior leadership role. So some of the stats that you've thrown there for Insulet, it really seems amazing. And like you mentioned, having such a diverse podder base. Right. We all different, right?
That's right.
So,
that's right.
No, that's amazing. Okay, so let's move to the point that you mentioned earlier. Like you said, your father uses a Dexcom continuous glucose monitor. I use a Dexcom continuous glucose monitor as well. And as you might know, my last interview was with the CEO of Dexcom, with Kevin Sayer. So I'm having a little bit of a personal mini series. I just spoke to the CEO of my CGM company, and now I'm honored to speak to CEO of my insulin pump company, which is fantastic. And so let's talk about Omnipod 5. we talked about how Omnipod started, where we are today with Dash and some of those capabilities. What's Omnipod 5? What's on the horizon? I had to make that joke. I'm sorry, I just had to.
It's great. Yeah, Omnipod 5 is on the horizon. We could not be more excited about it. I should, Camille, preface everything I'm about to say by reminding everybody that Omnipod 5 today is under review at the FDA. So it is not yet available in any market, but we're working very hard to make it available. And we could not be more excited about Omnipod 5. It will be the world's first tubeless automated insulin delivery system, and it will integrate with Dexcom's G6 sensor. The system itself is very novel because each disposable pod will have on it a very sophisticated software algorithm. That algorithm will speak directly to the Dexcom G6 sensor, and it will take the G6 readings and then automatically dose insulin based on those readings. And the pivotal data demonstrated improved time in range for people who use the system, and really exciting impact. And I think because one thing that's very exciting about it is because the algorithm will reside in the pod and not, for example, on the PDM or another device, it means that a user will be able to go for a run or take a shower and stay in closed loop control. Mm-hmm. So that should provide just incredible ease of use for our users. Really, we're focused obviously on delivering better outcomes. So, I think there are some other highly differentiated features about the system. One is that the system will allow the user to target different set points, glucose set points, depending on the activity. So you might be exercising, or you might be, headed into a stressful time at work, and you might want to target different set points. The system will give you that flexibility. There's also a great feature called HypoProtect, and this is a mode that the system can run in with the touch of a button. You can turn on HypoProtect, and the system is designed to reduce the risk of hypoglycemia during times where you might be at higher risk, like, for example, exercise. Mm-hmm. So a really thoughtfully designed system. Hundreds, if not thousands, of patients were involved in the design of the system. It's been under development at Insulet for about 6 years now. And obviously in strong partnership with Kevin and his team at Dexcom. They've been wonderful partners for us. And we know that there are many users like you that are using both Omnipod and Dexcom. And this will be just an incredible system that will provide, we think, a really terrific user experience and improved outcomes for users.
Yeah, I think the singular most exciting thing about it is that it connects directly to the CGM, to the G6, because that's something that you have the opportunity as being an insulin pump, which is worn on your body, to actually be connected directly. So, what kind of impact do you see that having compared to having a dedicated algorithm housed on a separate device, for example? How do you see that impacting the everyday use of someone living with diabetes?
Right. So you can imagine, you put on your pod, you put on your Dexcom, and you go into automated mode where you're in closed loop control, and then you can kind of go on to your day. So you can go for a run or take a shower or take a nap, whatever it is you want to do, and stay in closed loop control and get the benefit of closed loop control. You really only need your handheld controller, what you're controlling the system with, to announce a meal. But otherwise, the system is really designed to stay in closed loop control for the user. And we know with previous systems, automated insulin delivery systems, that oftentimes it was a challenge, because if you disconnect your system to take a shower or do something, you're then no longer in closed loop control and you're not getting optimal results. And so the system was designed really to be incredibly simple to use and to help the user stay in closed loop for as long and as frequently and for the longest duration as possible. And so we're really excited about providing users with a very simple user experience, but one that delivers the benefits of automated insulin delivery and closed loop systems. And so I think that's what went into the design choices of the system. We really did focus on a very simple user experience. And as I mentioned, when we think about designing these technologies, our goal really is to reduce burden. And so that is the mindset with which we went into designing Omnipod 5. And I believe that the system is going to provide just a tremendous user experience for our users. So it's currently under review at the FDA today. We are expecting clearance and limited market release sometime late this year in the United States. And we are certainly committed to bringing the technology to our European users as well. And that will follow our FDA clearance.
That's amazing to hear. Following on from that connection, have you, because obviously, like you mentioned, it's been in trials for a long time. As a user, I'm curious about the actual Bluetooth connection on your body. So the human body, because it's made of a lot of water, doesn't transmit Bluetooth very easily. Yep. So have you found any challenges with, because you probably wear your Omnipod on your arm, for example, and then your G6 on your abdomen. Has the connection, does that work well? What has your experience been with regarding that?
Yeah, Camille, it's a great question. And I think just points to, the challenges of innovating technologies like these. The team worked very hard to optimize antennas and Bluetooth communication to provide a great user experience. Feedback from people who have been in the clinical trials has been very positive. So we feel optimistic that we're going to deliver a great experience, including connectivity. But you're pointing out one of the big technical challenges of the system, and there are a lot when you think about how small that footprint is, both on the sensor and the pod side, to put more technology into a system, but try to provide an even simpler user experience. So to really, even though the system is becoming more complex, to try to keep that complexity in the background and provide the most easy to use, simple experience for the user. That is the great, technical challenge that we have, or design challenge that we have here at Insulet. And I think the team has done a marvelous job really delivering on that promise. But you'll see soon enough, and we'll get your review, I'm sure, on your podcast and get your opinion then.
So the good that you mentioned that. So the physicality of Omnipod 5. If someone was wearing Omnipod 5 and if someone is wearing Dash or the older pod, the actual pod doesn't change physically. It's not larger. It's not different.
Right.
Just
that's right.
Size of it changes, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're able to keep the same, size, small footprint that everybody loves, same pod. It's just the technology that's being basically that becomes more sophisticated within that footprint, but we're maintaining the footprint and the size of the pod and just packing it with a lot of really exciting technology that we hope will deliver a wonderful user experience.
That's amazing. Question about just the number 5. I'm curious, does that mean this is the 5th generation of Omnipod, or where did the number 5 come from?
Well, you're exactly right. It is the 5th generation of Omnipod. And I think, because we don't have that typical naming convention, people sometimes are not aware of how much innovation has happened in the pipeline and the fact that there have been 5 generations of Omnipod. Right. So we really moved to that naming convention to go to Omnipod 5 to do 2 things. One is to signal to everybody that there actually has been a tremendous amount of innovation up to this point with Omnipod, and also to signal that there are more to come. There's going to be an Omnipod 6, an Omnipod 7, and Omnipod 8. We are really committed to continuing to invest in innovation and bring simplicity, reduced burden, and improved outcomes to our users. And, to that point, we are investing significantly. Last year, we doubled our product development headcount. We continue to build capabilities technically across all sorts of areas: data, software, miniaturization, artificial intelligence, to be able to continue to bring life-changing innovations to people with diabetes, which is, our mission, our goal.
So if someone is watching and they're using Dash, you could say that that's basically Omnipod 4 in some ways.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the fourth iteration.
So John creates Omnipod 1, and there have been 3 changes without us even knowing that things have happened. And then Dash has been a meaningful change of the PDM, and next is Pod 5 with Dexcom.
That's right. Exactly right.
That's great. No, that's very actually interesting. Last question on 5. The smartphone control that you mentioned, which is coming. If someone is not keen to use a hybrid closed loop therapy because they can't access a continuous glucose monitor, they just choose not to. Will someone be able to have an Omnipod 5 pod or a regular Dash pod and have phone control capabilities with that, with a Samsung phone or whichever smartphone you partner with?
Yeah, great question. So yes, you can use the system in non-automated mode. In fact, it's designed to be able to move very quickly and very easily between automated mode and not automated mode. So you could technically use the system, without sensor integration in unautomated mode, and still benefit from smartphone control. That's right.
That's incredible to hear, and I'm sure many users here in Europe will really appreciate that, because I think phone control is something that just especially for a product like Omnipod, just seems like a very exciting and obvious kind of next step forward. So that's been very insightful. Before I let you go, we talked about kind of where Omnipod has been, where it is today. I want to go really forward into the future, and maybe not to Omnipod 550. 10 years from now, where do you see diabetes tech? Where do you see Omnipod being? Because I think we are at this very interesting point where medical technology is kind of merging with consumer technology. And you mentioned some of very exciting things like AI and all of those capabilities. What are you excited about? What gets you excited when you work for Insulet about the future?
Well, I don't usually think about the next decade because so much can change. It's hard to know. But when I think about the next few years, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for continued innovation for people with diabetes. And we see the opportunity to just continue to drive more and more simplicity. And we will do that through integration with consumer technology. We will do that with artificial intelligence and being able to eliminate the amount of interaction that a user has to have with their technology, and to get more predictive and more intuitive. Our goal is for a user to be able to put on a pod, put on their sensor of choice, and be off to the races, successfully managing their diabetes, maybe with just one parameter entered. Maybe you just enter your weight, and we can go from there. We want to do as much of the math, the tech, the calculations, the burden, the work that you, my father, and others are doing every day. We want to take that work away and make the technology do that work, and make your life able to be focused on, everything that you love, and less focused on managing and navigating your diabetes. So that's our goal. And we see, the opportunity for multiple iterations on Omnipod 5 to drive more and more and more simplicity, and less and less and less burden for people living with diabetes.
Amazing. To close off, I have to get your take on this. We're talking Omnipod in Europe. Giant event has happened here. I'm sure you know, in Italy during the Italian Fashion Week. I can't imagine what happened to your phone that afternoon. What has that been like, seeing Omnipod on the runway for Versace's Fashion Week in Italy?
It's just incredible. I have with a friend and I had this argument because she described Omnipod as a lifestyle product. And I said, Omnipod is not a lifestyle product. And she sent me the photo of Lila Moss wearing Omnipod on the runway. And she said, this is absolutely a lifestyle product. I just think it's wonderful to see a young woman normalize wearing her diabetes technology in that type of very visible, highly scrutinized forum, that she has the confidence and that she is clearly so successful and healthy and demonstrating, what living with diabetes can look like. So it was just an incredible thing to see it in that forum. We personally tracked the number of views and media interactions as a result of that. And we're talking about tens of millions of people who saw her wearing her Omnipod on the runway. And obviously great press for Omnipod, but more importantly, just an incredible message to young people with diabetes and living very successfully and living out loud with your diabetes and your technology. I just thought it was terrific.
I remember when I got my first, so CGM was the first product that I was wearing as a person living with diabetes. And that was around, I think, 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I remember very distinctly, picking T-shirts and jackets, etc., to hide it, because right. I didn't want to have it on display. I was like, I don't want people in school seeing me wearing this. Yeah. Throughout those 7 years, seeing people like Nick Jonas in the UK, our Prime Minister Theresa May with her Libre, all of those kind of moments has just been really amazing to fight the stigma and kind of that, because we shouldn't feel bad about, showing, who we are. And it's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, Shacey. Any final closing thoughts that you wanted to mention that we didn't cover?
It was an absolute pleasure, Camille. I just, I'll leave you with our excitement around the future pipeline and our commitment just to continue to improve the lives of people with diabetes. That's our sole goal here at Insulet, and we could not be more excited about what's to come. And hopefully we'll see many more walls with many different pods and your background and make a big impact on your life and the life of so many other people living with diabetes.
Couldn't think of a better way to finish. Thanks so much, Shacey, for being here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you, Camille.